But thank you all so much for joining today. My name is Lauren Wilson. I'm the Associate Director of the Office of Student Development. And excited that you're all here today, both in person and on Zoom, for the Recruiting and Motivating Your Members session. This is probably so important this year because we're all kind of starting fresh. We're coming off of a very challenging year where we may have lost a lot of members or didn't get the numbers last year that we wanted to. And so this is definitely a big year where people are back on campus. They want to get involved. They're ready to get involved. And we need to do our best to capture that audience. All right. So I want all of you to think for a minute about, why did you join the organizations that you're a part of? When did you join and how did you join? Does anybody want to throw out an idea of when you joined your organization or why you're a part of the organizations that you're in? Go ahead. Okay, so you found a group of people that you felt a connection with and wanted to be part of. Excellent. Anyone else? Why you joined the organization? All right, so kind of recruited by your professor. So I'm assuming that you're part of an academic group. All right. Let's look at the chat and see some other options. Interested in learning more about holistic health since you're adding it as a minor. Excellent. So when did you join? A lot of people might join during the Get Involved Fair. That's a huge time for recruiting new members, but realistically, you can join at any point through the year. So keep that in mind. And then in terms of how did you join, again, maybe a friend kind of dragged you along to a club. Maybe, you went to the Get Involved Fair and got connected. Maybe you went to an event and thought, wow, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this club. So those are some things just to kind of think about and keep in mind in terms of your own experience as you're developing your recruitment plan. So what motivates members to join? I know a few of you kind of talked about these things, but gaining new leadership skills and strengthening the leadership skills that you have. You believe in the mission of an organization, or you feel that connection with students with similar interests or a similar experience. You want to make friends. You want to get involved in campus life. Maybe you want to build your professional network and learn more about your academic major and get connected with people in those fields. Maybe you want to gain experience, whether it's a special interest that you have that you want to, gain some new skills, something for fun, or something with more of an academic purpose that you want to gain some new professional skills, and also to have fun. You're on campus, why not? All right, so recruitment is a year-long continual process. I know that so many people look forward to the Get Involved Fair in September and in January as like the big recruitment times, and it is a big recruitment time. But at the end of the day, you can join an organization at any time throughout the year. So always be ready to talk about how new members can join your organization. It doesn't have to stop after the Get Involved Fair. All right, so I'm going to give you some tips in terms of how to do year-long recruitment. Okay, so encourage new members to join throughout the year, not just at the beginning of each semester. You can utilize Osprey Hub. You can create news articles on Osprey Hub to highlight club accomplishments, showcase opportunities. That's a really great way to constantly get the word out about your organization. Maybe you can do a member of the month spotlight or a member of the week spotlight, or you can kind of draft news stories about the things that your club has accomplished. So you can go ahead and, talk about the service opportunities that you've had. Recruit within advertisements for an upcoming event. So if your club is putting on, let's say a holistic health fair, maybe, in your advertisement for that, you can just add a line that says, would you like to be a part of helping to plan this event? If so, contact, and then include your club email address or the president's email address of who to contact for more information. Because some people might not know that they want to be a part of the holistic health club. But when they see, oh my gosh, you're doing goat yoga, I want to do goat yoga, I want to be a part of planning the goat yoga series, then they might be more likely to reach out to you and want to be a part of helping to plan for that specific event. And then at every event that you do, promote your organization. I feel like organizations don't give themselves as much credit as they should, but some people might be coming to Harvest Fest because they want to be outside and paint pumpkins, but they might not know it's sponsored by Save. And so at your event, make sure that you're saying, this event is sponsored by the Stockton Action Volunteers for the Environment. And to get more involved, come to our table right over here and learn more. Come to our meetings Tuesdays at 4:30. But always be ready to promote your organization at every single event that you do, because again, recruitment should be a year-long process. Think differently. So I know that we always are giving out flyers and things like that, but really maximize social media. That is where students live. And so kind of meet students where they're at. Record the short video clips, do the TikToks, do, Snapchat, post things on Instagram, do things that are interactive rather than just posting, come to our meeting Tuesday at 4:30. Maybe ask people why they want to join your organization or what the best part of your club events are. Utilize your advisors. So every organization is assigned to a student development advisor who can help to walk you through the process of putting on events, spending your money, things like that. But you also have a faculty or staff advisor as well, who's usually a little bit more skilled in the specific content area that your club focuses on. So I know that you over here had mentioned that your professor kind of pulled you in. I'm sure that your professor is more skilled in, which club are you part of again? Okay, so in Ogre. So your professor is probably more skilled in that area than your student development advisor, but we can help you go through the logistics of planning an event and helping to recruit new members and things like that. But especially for academic organizations, your professors have access to all the students in your major. And so maybe there's a way that they can reach out to other professors to say like, hey, can you all just, do a quick announcement in the beginning of your class that says that the Physics Society is going to be meeting Wednesday night at 8:00. And now all of a sudden you're reaching your target audience, because if you're the Physics Society, you have your group of people that you want to reach out to. You can also, especially, I feel like last year we were all thrust into the virtual world and it made us a little bit uncomfortable, but there was a lot of really cool things that came out of it. So you can always record yourself on Zoom doing a quick commercial about your organization, make it just like a 1-minute thing. And then you can send it to the professors. If you're the math club, send it to the math department and say, hey, would you mind if you have an extra 1.5 minutes of your class? Can you, run our quick commercial about how to join the math club and what fun things we do? So there's a lot of ways to just think creatively and different and take advantage of the technology that we have these days. In making just a quick video, putting it on YouTube, sending the link to your professors and asking them like, hey, if you have a few minutes at the end of class, can you please promote our club? And then hosting information sessions, both virtually or in person, or you could do a hybrid style like we're doing for officer training, where we have our people here in live and in person, and our folks joining us through Zoom, so that people can join in whatever way they feel comfortable. A few tips specifically for the Get Involved Fair, because I know that that's coming up next week. One of the most important things is to be aware of your nonverbals. There's so many times that I see people sitting at a table with their bodies physically turned away from whoever's coming. Like, always make sure that you are able to scan and see who is coming up to your table so that you can greet them. All right. I can't stand when people have their back turned because it just makes you feel like it's just not an inviting environment. They feel like they're being ignored. Or when people sit at their tables and are just constantly looking down at their phones and never look up. I understand that there's some downtimes to the Get Involved Fair. I look on my phone and my laptop as well. But when there are students passing by, try to make eye contact, try to smile, be inviting. The next one, be inviting and kind. So even just simply smiling and asking how your day is going, even if they're not interested in joining your organization, they'll still associate your club with that friendly face and that friendly atmosphere in general, and just having a very positive experience. Not everybody's going to stop at your table, and that's okay. Some people really do have to get to class and they're in a rush, or might not be interested in your organization, and that's okay. We have over 250 organizations and ways to get involved on campus, and everybody will find their fit, but your club might not be the best fit for everybody, and that's okay. Tell your story. So create a display showcasing photos of your organization's events and initiatives. Show prospective members what's in it for them. So again, if you can gain experience in your academic field, if you could bond with other people with a similar interest or a similar experience, showcase your story and highlight your story, and explain what's in it for prospective members. And then focus on the prospective members. So I know, like, we're just getting back from, again, like a year and a half of this weird, challenging year and a half or 2 years, a decade. I don't know. It feels like forever. I know that you're all excited to see each other again and see the other members of your group. But remember that the focus should be on recruiting new members. It shouldn't be on social time with your existing members. And sometimes I see at the Get Involved Fair that there's like clusters of people from one organization that are all just huddled around the table and talking. And like, you're physically creating a barrier where prospective members can't even come up to your table because current members are sitting there talking and chatting and socializing. So I love that you're all excited to see each other, but save that for like after the Get Involved Fair. Come to the meeting on Thursday at 4:30 and we can all chat and bond. But at the Get Involved Fair, really try to keep that focus on your prospective members. I know a lot of people like to add music and videos and lots of other things to their table for the Get Involved Fair. But be aware that there are classes happening up and down those academic corridors. And it's also really hard to hear with masks on as it is. So trying to add that other audio barrier is a little bit challenging. So I would say limit the music so that you're able to, talk and hear one another when you're having that conversation. All right, so after the Get Involved Fair, you've got a whole list of new members on Osprey Hub and you're so excited. There's so many times that like everyone's first meeting, they're so excited that it's like, we have 45 new members. This is so great. And then they come back and they're like, and now we have 10, and now we have 8. So once you have your members, how do you keep them coming back, right? We have to make sure that we are intentional and strategic to keep those new members involved, keep them motivated, and keep them coming back so that they stay members. Granted, you're probably going to have a lot more people interested in your club than who will actually stick around and join, and that's okay too. But we want to try and keep them as involved and motivated as possible. All right, so here are some tips for keeping members involved and motivated. One thing is to invest in team building. So I know that sometimes everyone rolls their eyes at the icebreakers and the activities and the getting to know you games, but they really are helpful in making members feel connected with one another. So take a few minutes at the beginning of your general meetings, and make sure that your members have a chance to introduce themselves, share some common things that they have in common with one another, and really invest in a team building experience. Delegate effectively and utilize member strengths. So I know that as e-board members, we're all the doers, right? That's why you're in the positions that you're in. But there are certain things, like everybody wants to get involved and feel like they are contributing in a meaningful way to your organization. So if there's anything that you can delegate, do it. I'm not saying delegate the busy work, because that stinks. You wouldn't want that to be done to you if it was like, oh, here's all the things I don't want to do, so I'm going to delegate that out. I'm talking about, like, if you see somebody is constantly posting on social media, make them your social media chair and make them your marketing chair. And please go and cover and promote the heck out of our club and our events. And this is your job, is to be our TikTok chair or whatever it is that you want to utilize them for to get the word out. Form committees. So maybe you can have your marketing committee or your special events committee, a service committee if your organization wants to do more community service. There's lots of different things that that you can assign to people to get them involved. Hold members accountable. So when you are giving them the task. So many times I've seen presidents that just roll their eyes and they're like, I guess I'll just do it myself because it wasn't done. Like, okay, well, did you talk to the person who said they were going to make the flyer? Follow up with them, encourage them, like give them the timeline of when you need that flyer by, so that this way you can follow up and say, hey, I know that you said you would get me the flyer by Sunday. Can you send it my way? Maybe they forgot, maybe something came up, but make sure that you're holding them accountable and checking in on them, so that this way they know that the task that you delegated to them matters and it's important, and you need that for your event or your organization's initiative to be successful. I always use the guideline: praise in public, criticize in private. So if one of your members did something good, that's when you should give them a shout out in your meeting. So thank you so much to Kaya for your help this morning with check-in. Thanks so much to Jess for your help swiping everybody in. I appreciate it. With criticism, that's best to do in private. Nobody likes to be called out in front of a crowd, right? So if your PR chair dropped the ball and didn't get you the event advertisement when they said they would, that's not something to shout out in a meeting and be like, what happened? You didn't give me the, you never made the flyer on Canva. You never gave it to us. And now nobody's coming to our event. Like, that's not cool. You wouldn't want to be called out in a big group anyway. Talk to them in private and give them that feedback in private to hold them accountable. Encourage people to work together, generate enthusiasm, and lead by example. So never delegate something that you wouldn't want to do yourself. At the end of the event, clean up with your other members. Don't just, give them the broom and tell them to start sweeping and cleaning up the trash from tables. They will look to you as the example. So if you're walking around and you start collecting trash from the tables, chances are they'll do it too. But make sure that you lead by example and that you're in it with them. So I know I mentioned kind of a few different possible tasks to delegate, but wanted to go over a few other ones. So social media, Osprey Hub news, even like writing articles for the Argo and getting the word out to the Stockton community about all the great things that your club is doing, whether it's a spotlight, a recap of an event that you did. The Argo does a great job in covering articles, but there's also a lot that they don't know about that's happening. So your organization members are the experts of what you're doing. So tell the story, get the word out, take pictures, make sure that you're talking about your organization as much as possible. Have a graphic design chair. So again, with Canva, these things are really easy. You don't need to be, super skilled in graphic design to be able to produce something that looks good. But set somebody in charge of doing all the graphic design work. Have a membership chair. So somebody whose job is specifically to reach out and follow up with new members, maybe, send individualized text to follow up to say like, hey, thanks so much for coming out to the meeting. Just wanted to see if you have any feedback for us or any ideas for new events. Maybe if they don't come, they can reach out to those people as well and say like, hey, I just wanted to check in. I know you were interested in joining our organization, but didn't see you at the meeting. Just want to check in and see if you're still interested. A club historian, so somebody who is taking pictures at all of your events, saving all those news articles and putting them, scanning them and maybe adding them to Osprey Hub to kind of store all those documents. A professional development chair. So especially with our academic organizations or even like the special interest clubs, if your organization wants to bring in like a guest speaker, maybe, maybe you can have somebody set to plan one professional development opportunity a month. So some kind of skill building thing. So a guest speaker, maybe a professor can come in, somebody else who's an expert in whatever your club does. Club outreach and co-sponsorship. Maybe you could put somebody in charge of kind of reaching out and partnering with other organizations. So if you are part of a cultural or a religious organization, maybe your job is to reach out to other cultural and religious organizations and see how you can find those partnerships. Or with academic departments, maybe you can partner with the math club or the social work club and psychology club could do something together. The other thing is that you don't have to limit that to just Stockton. Okay, so I know the Asian Student Alliance does this all the time where they're reaching out to the ASA, or it might be called something different at Rowan, at TCNJ, at Princeton. And they're collaborating with groups that are similar to theirs, but at other schools. And they're learning from those clubs on like, what events are you doing that are successful? So you can definitely put one or maybe even a few people in charge. Maybe one person is doing club outreach at Stockton and one person is building those connections and building those bridges between Stockton and all of our neighboring institutions. We have so many schools in like the 1 hour radius. Like if you look at Philly, TCNJ, Rowan, Rutgers, there's so many schools in our general area that all have clubs similar to what we have at Stockton. So reach out, you can borrow ideas, share ideas. I know last year, especially when we were doing all of our programs virtually, they collaborated quite a bit to bring in some speakers that all these groups were invited to. And so like they would reach out and invite, Rowan's group to come in and join them because it's, again, just a Zoom link away. So those are just some ideas of ways that you can delegate those tasks out to members of your club. And like I said, everyone likes to feel like they're an important member of your club, and they want to be more than just a general member most of the time. So find a way for them to do something. Think of maybe brainstorm a wish list at one of your meetings of like, what are all the things that we could be doing that we just haven't had time to do before? Like let's dream big and just plan out. Like if we had all the different members that we want and we could do everything that we wanted to, like what would that wish list look like? And then start dividing it up because maybe you can make some of those things happen. So I also want to talk about, I feel like it's like the elephant in the room right now, right? The impact of COVID-19 on student leaders and motivation. And when I say student leaders, I really just mean people in general, because I feel like all of us have been impacted over the last, 18 months, 20 months, how far into this are we now? So, over the course of the last year and a half, people's priorities have shifted. There's been a lot of emotional pressure, a lot of financial and economic pressure. Everyone's lives have kind of changed a little bit. Obviously, health and safety is a big concern for a lot of people. Things, while they're starting to get back to feeling normal, they still feel a little bit disorganized at times. And that definitely takes a toll on people and has changed people. So it's important to be aware of kind of how this might impact motivation. Last year, there was really a lack of structure, a lack of time management. Everybody's environment changed. So you were learning in a new space, you were getting involved in a new space. I know we talked about like, I don't know if I want to get involved with a virtual club. So everything felt different. There was a huge lack of in-person contact last year, decreased communication. I mean, even for us, like we didn't hear from so many of these organizations. So it is so good to see that so many groups are signed up for the Get Involved Fair and they are coming out to officer training because just the communication last year wasn't quite there. Loss and grief. And so this is not just loss and grief for people, but it's also grieving the loss of experiences too. You may have had, a freshman or a first-year student who just had a completely different first-year experience than you might have had because they weren't on campus. They were experiencing Stockton in the virtual world and experiencing involvement in the virtual world. So this is all of our first time coming out of a pandemic and bouncing back out of a pandemic. So we're all kind of learning this together and feeling this together and, I guess understanding the impact of all this together. But I know my priorities have certainly changed over the last 2 years, and my way of thinking about life has changed a little bit over the last few years. And I'm sure that all of you can think back to 2 years ago, and your 2019 self might not be your 2021 self, and that's okay. So with all that said, it's really important to lead with your heart and to be a friend first and a student leader second. Even though your club might be high on the priority for you, it might not be the top priority for everybody, and that's okay. You really want to make sure, especially this year as we're all kind of easing back into things, make sure that your members know that you're caring about them and their experience, because we are still in a pandemic and there are still, emotional stresses and financial stresses and economic stresses. And and concerns. So making sure that you're reaching out and you're showing that level of care and really, leading with your heart. Credentials and position no longer matter. They need to know that you care, right? So it's great if you're the president of your organization, but they're going to remember you more for being that person that called and checked in and been like, hey, I saw that you came out to like the first 2 meetings, but we haven't seen you in a while. Is everything okay? Just constantly checking in on your members. I know that like last year it was probably even more important than this year. But just making sure that you're checking in and that your members know that you're there for them. You're encouraging them to do their best. No matter what their best is. Everyone's best might be a little bit different now than it was in 2019. I know that mine is. I keep telling that to everybody. I said, I'm going to give it my best. That is my goal for this year. But also being patient with myself and knowing that my 2021 best might not be the same as my 2019 best. And that's okay. It's going to have to be okay. And so just kind of wanted to share, I guess, a few more tips as we're transitioning away. I don't want to say as we're transitioning out of a pandemic because, like I said, we're still in it. But as we transition away from that 2020, 2021 strange year that we just experienced, make sure that you're leading with your heart, like I said, making sure that your members know that you care about them. Revisit expectations. And so this is really something that everybody should kind of set together as a group, figuring out what you want to do. I know, especially for those of you who might be juniors and seniors in the room, you might be ready to dive back into like your 2019 events and be like, yes, let's go and do this again. And let's do this again. But in a way, I feel like we're starting again with a blank slate of like, what do we want to create this year? Last year, even though it was tough for us to move everything virtually, we at least knew that everything was going to live virtually and we were going to figure it out. But now that we're back in person, it's like, okay, the COVID restrictions don't exist anymore. We can have this entire theater filled if we wanted to. We can have the entire event room filled full capacity if we want to. But is that what we want to do? Or do we want to kind of proceed with caution and figure out a way to redesign our events that are, that work better for now? Okay. So it's still going to be a challenging year this year because I feel like we all have to start with that blank slate again and figure out what this year looks like and what our traditional events look like. But involve your members in that process, brainstorm together, celebrate success together. You can't compare your 2021 events and initiatives to 2019 because we're in 2 totally different spaces. So, you can't be discouraged if your attendance is a little bit lower this year than it was 2 years ago, because we're working in a completely different environment, a completely different situation. So revisit your expectations with your members, figure out what might be realistic for your club to accomplish, and celebrate all the success that comes your way, because all of these things are definitely worth celebrating. Even though it is a challenging situation that we're kind of bouncing out of, reframe the situation, reimagine what could be. Like I said, have that conversation with your members to see like what's on your wish list. What are some things that we could be doing? What are some things that other clubs at other schools are doing that are similar to ours? And come up with that list of brainstorming what you can do. And just come up with a new plan for this year. It's okay for it to be different than it was in 2019 or even from last year. But work together and figure out what makes the most sense. So I feel like I did a whole lot of talking and shared a lot of tips, but that actually is the end of my official presentation. Are there questions or ideas that you all want to brainstorm? Things that I said that you're like, oh yes, I'm going to go and do that. Or tasks that maybe your club can delegate that you didn't think about before, committees that you can form. Any thoughts, questions? Looking at the Zoom audience too, if there's anything that you want to put in the chat. Are we going to get a goat yoga chair this year? Olivia? I'm kidding. Any questions? Oh, let's see. Not sure about the goat yoga. All good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to stick around for anybody who might want to brainstorm or has any other questions, even if it's not related to recruiting and motivating members. But thank you all so much for joining today.